They left me in that hospital room like I was an umbrella someone forgot in a diner booth. And the worst part? It happened so fast I barely had time to protest. Subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments how old you are and where you're watching from. For you, it's tiny. For me, it's the reason I keep telling these stories. I overheard them outside the curtain, my 9 grown kids arguing about who had to deal with Dad. Janelle said. I can't. I've got the twins, Curtis answered. I took him last time. Last time? I had never been taken anywhere except fishing trips. Even the doctor looked more shocked than me. The funniest thing? Brick. Yes, Brick excused himself by saying, my dog gets nervous around old people. I nearly pulled off the heart monitor to ask him since when his dog had voting rights in family decisions. Dad needs rehab, supervision, something, Moira said, waving her hands like she was negotiating the price of a used toaster. I just want to go home, I muttered, but they didn't hear me, or pretended not to. Then Sylvia leaned close, speaking like a kindergarten teacher. Dad, you're safer here. We'll visit. Promise. I've heard that tone from people who don't mean a word they're saying. And just like that, coat zipped, phones checked, excuses made, they walked out, all 9 of them, leaving me staring at the hospital ceiling tiles, wondering when exactly I stopped being a father and became an obligation nobody wanted. But later that night, I learned something even worse. Something they were already planning without telling me. The next morning, a social worker showed up at my bedside holding a clipboard thicker than a Thanksgiving turkey. She smiled politely, too politely, and said, Mr. Halvorsen, your children have made arrangements. Nothing good in life ever starts with arrangements. I'm not dead yet, I told her. She wrote something on her paper. Probably difficult. She explained that my kids had decided, without asking me, of course, that I should be transferred to a short-term senior facility. Short-term. That's what they call it before it becomes permanent, I asked. Did they at least come in to say this themselves? She flipped a page. They left last night. A family emergency. Family emergency? I am the family emergency. Then she added, Your daughter Janelle said you tend to argue emotionally. I nearly fell out of the bed laughing. Me? Emotional? The woman who once cried because her hairdryer broke was calling me emotional? The nurse passing by snorted so loud, she pretended it was a cough. When the social worker left, I stared at the lunch tray they brought me. Lukewarm mashed potatoes and peas that looked like they'd been through war. I poked the peas, and one rolled away, like it was trying to escape too. Lucky pea, I told it. Later that afternoon, a male nurse, a big guy named Virgil, with arms like tree trunks, came in to help me stand. Your kids filled out the transfer forms, he said casually. All of them. Together. Not even asking me. And for the first time since that mild stroke, something in my chest hurt worse than my left arm. It wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was the feeling of being quietly replaced. But then Virgil leaned close and whispered, By the way, I overheard something in the hallway. Your kids aren't just planning a facility. I frowned. Then what? He shook his head. You might want to sit tight for this. Because whatever they were plotting, it was about to change everything for me. Virgil closed the door behind him as if he were about to reveal state secrets. He lowered his voice and said, Your kids, they're talking about selling your house. My heart skipped worse than it did during the stroke. Selling my what? Your house, he repeated. They said, and I quote, Dad won't need it anymore. Might as well free up the equity. Equity. That's what 37 years of memories had become equity. All the birthdays, the old oak I planted with my bare hands, the dent in the hallway wall where Brick rode a tricycle indoors like a tiny criminal reduced to a financial opportunity. I sat back and whispered, They're vultures. Virgil shrugged. Well, they're organized vultures. Even in my anger, I choked on a laugh. Virgil was the kind of man who could deliver both sympathy and a punchline without blinking. I rubbed my temples. Didn't even ask me. Didn't even pretend to. He nodded. They were loud. I heard everything while pushing the linen cart. What else did they say? Virgil hesitated. They said if they sell fast, they can split the money before taxes hit. Uh, so that's what I was now. A tax problem. I imagined my 9 children gathered around my kitchen table where I once served pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, arguing over who gets the garage or the shed like it was Black Friday. I must have looked heartbroken, because Virgil sat down on the edge of the bed. "Look, old man," I glared. "Fine, distinguished gentleman better? Your kids think you're down for the count. They think you're too weak to argue. They think you'll never come home again." He paused, leaning in. "But I've seen tougher cases than you walk out of here swinging. You're not done yet." That was the moment a spark lit up somewhere inside me. A tiny one, the size of a match head, but it was fire nonetheless. The first real fire I'd felt in days. I wasn't about to let them sell the one place that ever felt like mine. No. If they thought I was helpless, they were about to learn otherwise. Because the next thing I discovered about my children, that made their betrayal look like a warm-up act. The next day, a woman with a floral scarf and a smile so bright it looked painful walked into my room holding another clipboard. "Good morning, Mr. Halverson. I'm Trudy, the relocation coordinator." "Relocation?" I blinked. "Am I moving to Mars?" She chuckled politely, the kind of laugh people use when they don't get jokes but want to seem friendly. "No, no. Your children have arranged transportation to Maple Glen Senior Residence." Maple Glen? I knew that place. It was the facility where people went in and didn't come out, unless it was through a side door attended by a priest. "I didn't agree to this," I said. She tapped her clipboard like it held the laws of the universe. "The paperwork is signed. By them, not by me." When she asked me to choose between a shared room or a standard economy room, I laughed so hard I nearly set off the heart monitor alarm. "Economy? What am I, a suitcase on a budget airline?" Trudy blinked. "It's just terminology." "Well, I want the terminology where I stay in my own house." She gave me the smile people reserve for stubborn toddlers and walked out. I sat there, stewing in my own frustration, when an elderly man in the next bed whom I hadn't spoken to because he slept more than a cat in winter suddenly opened one eye. "You know," he said, voice dry as toast, "if my kids tried to relocate me, I'd fake a haunting." I stared. "A what?" "A haunting. Rattle some pipes, moan in the hall, leave messages on mirrors. They'd run faster than my ex-wife when she saw divorce papers." I burst out laughing for the first time in days. This stranger, this half-sleeping, half-dreaming old man had just given me my first breath of relief. "My kids plan to sell my house," I admitted quietly. He snorted. "You raised them wrong. I raised them the best I could." "Exactly," he said. "That's the problem. You were nice." He turned over, muttering, "Nice dads get abandoned. Mean dads get respect." Should have yelled more. The ridiculousness of his advice made me grin, but behind the grin was a deep, throbbing ache. How had 9 different childhoods, 9 different personalities, 9 different small hands I held on 9 first days of school, all grown into people who saw me as a burden rather than a father? I thought I had reached the lowest point. But that evening, when a nurse brought in my mail, I found something tucked between the envelopes that froze my breath completely. A document, folded 3 times, signed by all 9 of my children. What it said shook me in a way I didn't think was still possible at my age. It wasn't a letter. It wasn't even an apology. It was a power of attorney agreement already notarized, already stamped, giving my 9 children full control over my finances, due to diminished capacity. Diminished capacity. As if forgetting where I left my glasses last Tuesday made me unfit to decide my own life. I felt the paper tremble in my hand. Maybe it was my anger, maybe my heart, maybe both. The signature line where my name belonged was blank, of course. They couldn't forge that. But everything else, they'd already filled out. Below the signatures was a note scrawled in Curtis's handwriting. "Dad, don't worry. This is just to help manage things while you recover." Manage things? Like what? The sale of my home? The draining of my savings? The turning of my life into a group project? I must have looked like I was about to combust because the old man in the next bed lifted his head. Bad news? They want power of attorney. He whistled. Oof. That's the Super Bowl of betrayal. I ran my fingers through my thinning hair. They're treating me like a wallet with legs. He shrugged. Could be worse. My son treated me like a wallet without legs. Before I could laugh, Nurse Maribel came in, a tiny woman with a bun so tight it could deflect bullets. She saw the document and pursed her lips. Oh no, I've seen that form before. You have? She nodded. Usually right before a family starts arguing over who gets the recliner. I groaned. The recliner is mine. Not once they get the paperwork, she said, patting my hand. Her attempt at comfort somehow made it worse. But as I sat there drowning in frustration, she leaned close and whispered, If you want my advice, don't sign a single thing. Not until you talk to someone who actually cares about you. I looked around the room. Who would that be? She smiled. Well, for starters, me and Virgil, and half the nurses on this floor. You're the only patient here who thanks us before complaining. That made me chuckle, even as my throat tightened. Strangers cared about me more than my own family. But the evening wasn't over, because a few hours later, something happened that none of my children planned for and definitely didn't want. A visitor arrived, one they didn't expect, and he walked into my room with a look that told me everything was about to change. The visitor stepped inside like he owned the place, broad shoulders, square jaw, hair combed so perfectly it looked like it had its own mortgage. Dad, he said, we need to talk. It was Toby, my youngest. The only one who used to cry when I left for work. The only one who once sat on my lap and said, when I grow up, I'll take care of you. Well, apparently that promise had expired without notice. He pulled up a chair, sat backwards on it like a youth pastor, and sighed dramatically. Listen, the others don't think you're in the right state of mind to make financial decisions. I raised an eyebrow. And you do? He hesitated. I think you're in a slightly better state of mind. Then what? A toaster? I stared at him. He coughed. Bad example. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Toby always had the comedic timing of someone who didn't know they had comedic timing. He ran his hands through his hair. Dad, selling the house, it's not a bad idea. It's big. It's old. The roof cries every time it rains. It cries because your brother Brick fell through it in 1998, I snapped. You remember that? That was a weird Thanksgiving, he admitted. He leaned closer. The others want to sell it fast. They already talked to a realtor. My heart tightened. Without me? He winced. They said you'd make it. Complicated. Complicated. The new modern word for alive. I looked him in the eyes, those same brown eyes he had when he was small and used to bring me wilted dandelions because he didn't know they were weeds. Toby, do you want them to sell my house? He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a fish trying to negotiate. Finally, he muttered, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? Well, he scratched his head. My car needs a transmission. Brick wants braces for his kid. Janelle wants a new kitchen. So I'm funding home renovations now? No. Well, indirectly. I slapped my forehead so hard the monitor beeped. Toby panicked. Dad, calm down. I am calm, I shouted. The machine beeped faster. Nurse Maribel rushed in. What happened? My son happened, I said. She put her hands on her hips. Then lower your blood pressure, or I'll sedate both of you. Toby sat up straight. Both? Why me? Because you look like trouble, she said, storming out. After she left, Toby sighed. Dad, look, I didn't come here to fight. I came because, well, the truth is, he swallowed. I don't want them to do this to you. I feel wrong about it. That softened me. Just a little. Then he added, but they told me if I try to stop them, I won't get my share. There it was, the knife, twisted gently, almost apologetically. I closed my eyes. For a moment I thought I might cry, but no. Not now. Not in front of Toby. Instead, I said, get out. Dad! I said, get out. He stood up slowly, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry, he whispered. And as he walked out the door, I realized something cold, sharp, and painfully clear. I wasn't just losing my house, I was losing my family. But the universe can be strange, because minutes later, a person I hadn't seen in years walked in, and what they told me turned everything on its head. She appeared in the doorway like a ghost from a chapter of my life I thought was closed forever. A navy coat, gray scarf, hair pinned up the same way she wore it the day she left town. "Hello, Arlo," she said softly. My chest tightened. It was Nora, my late wife's younger sister. A woman my kids absolutely could not stand, mostly because she had a habit of telling them the truth. Loudly, with charts. "What are you doing here?" I whispered. She stepped inside, placing a paper bag on my bedside table. "Heard you were dying. Thought I'd bring you your favorite banana muffins before you go." I blinked. "I'm not dying." She shrugged. "Then I brought too many muffins." Her humor always hit sideways. It was like being slapped by a warm pillow. She took off her gloves, sat in the visitor chair, and lowered her voice. "Your children called me. Wanted my signature as a character witness." "For what?" She raised an eyebrow. "For the power of attorney." I nearly choked on my own tongue. "They wanted you to sign?" "Oh yes," she said. "Apparently I'm the sensible relative. A title I've never had before and frankly don't deserve." Then she leaned in. "And they tried to convince me you're confused, irrational, and emotionally unstable." I burst out laughing. "Emotionally unstable? Me? This morning I successfully buttered my toast with only one spill. That's Olympic-level stability." Nora sighed. "Arlo, they're planning to sell your house, your car, your land, everything. Then they'll place you in Maple Glen, where the average smell is bleach and regret." "I know," I muttered. I refused to sign. That made me stop. I turned to her fully. "Why?" She hesitated, something rare for her. "Because your wife would have haunted me for eternity if I let them dump you somewhere like a broken appliance." A laugh escaped me, but it cracked in the middle. Hearing her name, my late wife hit me in a place still sore after all these years. "She always said," Nora continued, "if anyone puts Arlo in a home, I'll rise from the grave with a frying pan." "She did love her frying pans," I murmured. "And she loved you," Nora added quietly, "even when you were a stubborn mule who refused to fix the porch light for 3 years. I was testing its durability." "Sure," she said, "and gravity tests us all." For a moment, the room felt warm, safe. Like family, real family was finally on my side. Nora reached into her bag and pulled out a thick folder. "What's that?" "Something your kids forgot exists." "What?" "Your original will." I froze. "My will?" She nodded. "You gave me a copy years ago, in case of emergency. Good thing one of us has a memory." "You mean they don't know?" "No," she said with a sly grin. "And based on what's in here, they're about to be very, very surprised." A flicker of hope sparked inside me. Hope in something else, something sharper. Because what Nora showed me next had the power to turn the tables completely. Nora opened the folder with the gentle drama of someone revealing lottery numbers. Pages rustled. My pulse jumped. She tapped the document with one perfectly manicured finger. "Arlo, your kids think they're about to inherit a buffet," she said. "But according to this, they're getting crumbs. Stale ones." I leaned forward, careful not to yank the IV out again last time. Nurse Maribel threatened to tape my hands to the bed. "What exactly did I put in that will?" I asked. "You left the house to your grandkids." "Only the grandkids." I blinked. "All 13 of them?" "12," she corrected. "You disinherited Brick's eldest because he stole your lawnmower." "Oh, right. The lawnmower thief." She flipped to the next page. "And everything else? Your savings, the land, the car, your vintage fishing gear you left it to." She paused for dramatic tension. "To who?" I pressed. "To the one child who takes care of you in old age." Silence. A heavy, delicious silence. I exhaled. "So basically, none of them?" "Correct." "Well, that simplifies things," I muttered. Nora laughed so hard the nurse poked her head in to check if we were choking. But then her smile softened. Arlo, your kids don't know this will exist. They think they're days away from dividing your life like leftover pie. They won't be happy, I murmured. Oh, they're going to react like raccoons when you take away the trash can. A weak laugh escaped me then. A heavier feeling sank in. My children, how did they become like this? Nora sighed. You gave them everything. Sometimes love spoils worse than milk in July. Her bluntness stung because it was true. I raised them to be comfortable, not grateful. Safe, not responsible. Loved, but never challenged. Maybe I hadn't failed them as a father, but I sure hadn't prepared them for adulthood. Nora touched my arm gently. But you know what? People show their true faces when they think you're weak. Lucky for you, you're not. I sat up straighter, the fire inside me growing. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. Nora grinned. I thought you'd say that. You'll help me? Arlo, I brought muffins. Obviously, I'm prepared for war. A strange burst of hope shot through me, the kind that comes only when someone finally stands beside you after everyone else walks away. But just as I opened my mouth to plan my escape, Nora lifted a hand. There's one problem, she said. What now? Your children already scheduled your transfer. Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow? Less than 24 hours. And they'll be here, she added, to make sure you go. For the first time in years, maybe decades, I felt a thrill I hadn't known since my youth. Not fear, not weakness, but something bold and dangerous. Because if they were coming tomorrow, then tomorrow would not go the way they expected. The next morning arrived like a thief, quiet, early, unwelcome. I barely slept. Nora dozed in the chair beside me, snoring softly like a bulldog wrapped in a scarf. Every time she inhaled, her hair puffed upward. At 8:07 a.m., the hospital hallway erupted with a very familiar sound. My children arguing. All 9 voices colliding like shopping carts in a parking lot. They better have him ready. I booked the transport van. He'll resist. He always resists. Does Maple Glen allow scented candles? Why would you bring scented candles? To make it feel like home. He has a home, I smirked. If they only knew. Nora jolted awake. They're here? Like a biblical plague, I said. She fixed her hair, grabbed the will folder, and whispered, Remember the plan. I remember. Don't faint. I'll try my best. The door slammed open. Curtis marched in first, clipboard in hand, like a mall manager. Behind him came the entire parade. Janelle, Brick, Poppy, Moira, Deshawn, Lenora, Toby, and Sylvia, each wearing the expression of someone trying to look caring while calculating resale value. Dad, Curtis said, today we move forward. Yes, Janelle added. It's for your own good, Nora snorted. Loudly, every head snapped toward her. What is she doing here? Janelle demanded. She's visiting, I said calmly. You remember what visiting is? That thing children sometimes do for their parents? Brick frowned. Is she trying to influence him? Nora shot back. If by influence you mean remind him he has a spine, then yes. Sylvia clapped her hands like she was leading a kindergarten class. Dad, we have the transfer papers. Just sign and… No, I said. A simple word. But it created a silence so thick you could spread it on toast. Curtis blinked. No. What? No, I'm not going. Moira stepped forward. Dad, you're confused. Nora barked a laugh. The only confused people here are the 9 adults who think you can bully him into a retirement home. Poppy lifted her chin. We're doing this for him. For his safety, Deshawn added. I raised a hand. Do you want to know what I think is unsafe? Brick rolled his eyes. Here we go. I pointed at the folder in Nora's lap. That. Nora opened it with the dramatic flair of someone revealing a surprise dessert. She lifted my will. You might want to read this, she said. Janelle scoffed. We already know what it says. We inherit… No, you don't, Nora cut in. You disinherited us! Brick shrieked, sounding exactly like he did at age 10 when someone stole his pizza roll. No, I said. You disinherited yourselves. One by one, their faces twisted confusion. Then shock. Then pure grocery store brand horror. You get nothing, I said. Not the house, not the land, not the savings. Curtis stepped closer. You're lying. Read it, Nora said, waving the will like a victory flag. Lenora grabbed it, her eyes widened. Oh my God. Then the room erupted. Voices overlapping, accusations flying, Brick threatening to sue gravity, complete chaos. Through the noise, Toby whispered, Dad, does this mean nothing? I turned to him. It means the person who takes care of me in old age inherits everything. He looked down, ashamed. I didn't. No, I said softly. You didn't. The arguments grew louder, but I no longer felt small, or helpless, or abandoned. For the first time in days, I felt in control. But the real final blow, the one that would end everything, was still waiting in the hallway, ready to walk in. The door opened quietly this time. No shouting, no chaos. Just a man in a dark vest holding a stack of papers and a badge around his neck. Mr. Halverson? He asked. That's me. I'm Attorney Powell. Your nurse said you asked for legal support? My kids froze like deer caught doing something illegal, which, considering the forged plans, wasn't far off. Attorney Powell stepped in, calm as a winter lake. I've reviewed your will, the attempted power of attorney documents, and the notes from the hospital staff. He glanced at the 9 adults clustered around my bed. Your children have misunderstood the law. Curtis bristled. We were just trying to bypass your father's rights, the attorney said. Curtis shut his mouth like someone taped it. Powell looked at me. You're mentally competent. Fully. Your medical chart confirms it. I raised an eyebrow at my children. Would you look at that? My brain still works. Poppy whispered. Oh no. Therefore, Powell continued, you cannot be relocated without consent. You cannot be placed into any facility without consent. And your property cannot be sold without your explicit signature. Janelle began hyperventilating like someone canceled her Pilates class. But we already scheduled the sale. Then you'll have to cancel it, Powell said. Moira tried a different tactic. Dad, be reasonable. We were just done, I cut in. Done what? She asked. Done with all of you managing my life. They blinked at me, 9 faces, 9 guilt-ridden expressions. I continued, voice steady. You didn't check on me. You didn't comfort me. You didn't even ask me what I wanted. You treated me like a broken appliance, something to store away and disassemble. Sylvia flinched. Toby looked at the floor. Even Brick looked ashamed, which was new for him. I took a breath. And because of that, you inherit nothing. Not a house, not a car, not a dime. Curtis stepped forward. Dad, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. You did. Then I turned to Powell. I'd like to sign the updated version. The one that makes my wishes crystal clear. He handed me the papers and a pen. My hands shook not from weakness, but from the weight of what I was taking back. My life, my dignity, my home. When I finished signing, I folded the papers and gave them to him. Thank you. My pleasure, sir, he said. You have more support here than you know. My children watched silently. They looked smaller somehow, not physically, but in spirit. People shrink when their entitlement evaporates. I pointed to the door. You can all go now. Come back when you want to visit me, not use me. One by one, they shuffled out, some arguing, some crying, some stunned into silence. Only Toby lingered. Dad, I'm sorry, he whispered. I know, I said. But apology is a seed. It grows only if you water it. He nodded and left. After the room quieted, Nora sat on the bed and handed me a muffin. We really did it, she said. We did. How do you feel? I looked at the sunlight hitting the wall warm, steady, just like home. I feel like a man who got his life back. She patted my shoulder. You're not going to Maple Glen, you know. No, I smiled. I'm going home. And I did. With my house still mine, my future still mine, and my dignity finally exactly where it belonged,